Are you ready to unleash your full potential and become unstoppable in your success and leadership?
Welcome to the Unleashed and Unstoppable podcast, where we provide powerful insights and strategies for coaches, corporate leaders, and entrepreneurs. I'm Alexanne Carter.
And I'm Carol Register, and we're certified master neurocoaches who are passionate about helping you overcome your limiting beliefs and optimize your performance.
Each week, we'll be sharing actionable tips and strategies using neuroscience, from interviews with industry experts to solo episodes to help you lead a life of power, purpose, and possibility on your own terms.
Join our community of like-minded individuals. Hit subscribe now and let's be unleashed and unstoppable together. Hey, here we are. We're so excited to see you. Alex and I are bringing you some incredible information because we know that each and every one of us can be unleashed and unstoppable. We've been leashed and stopped, right?
Yeah.
And we're not into that anymore. We want to be, the limitless individuals that we are meant to be, creating the reality that we are designed, actually, and meant to create. It's where we flourish, where we thrive. And so I want to ask you a question because we had an incredible episode last week. And I want to know, are you ever feel like you're networking and you're trying to collaborate, but you're falling forward, you're feeling awkward, you're just not really making the opportunities that you want to make? Well, what if the key to those powerful connections wasn't about saying the right things, but it's actually about thinking the right things, right? The neuroscience. And we know the neuroscience is more than just the thoughts in the brain, but it's the place that we start, right? To get really powerful. So today we're going to share with you about how brain priming, which is a part of our neuroscience process, can transform the way that you connect and collaborate with people. How does that sound, right? Sounds
Well, I
pretty
remember
good.
last week, Carol, I asked Joe, I was really curious because we think about the brain priming, we think about the thoughts and beliefs that we have around networking and collaboration and building that connection, especially if we're
Yeah,
out there building businesses and we're thought leaders and we're coaches and we're out there to help people, right? I mean, it's a
yeah.
relationship game. That's really like relationships first. And I was really curious because Joe shared like the success he's had with networking. He shared a lot of great practical tips and tricks on his interview last week. But we asked him that question of like, what is like, how do you get yourself set up for
Mhm.
success before you even walk into an event? And he even shared like one of his, I think, colleagues, or
Yeah.
maybe a client went to him and talked to him and said, like, it doesn't work, right? So right off the bat, we can say, well, that's a belief, right? If you
Mhm.
believe that networking doesn't work, if you believe anything that something doesn't work, guess what? It's because that's what you believe and what you focus on grows.
Yeah.
So if you believe that, that's the experience you're going to create. The power of the brain priming, the power of the work that Carol and I do is being able to change the pattern. The
Mhm.
thing is, it's in your subconscious. So you're not walking around saying it's not working, da, da, da. It's the subconscious. But when you show up to a networking event, for
Yeah.
example, you have this belief going in. Like actually, and to be honest, that was my belief.
Yeah.
My belief was I'm not a good networker. I'm no good at networking with people. I don't know how to connect with people. I remember that was
Mm.
the belief that I literally, because I used to attend a lot of, well, there's sort of networking events, but it was networking events with parents at the
Yeah.
independent school I used to work at. So I got to attend a lot of these parent events. And I always remember before I'd walk in the room, I was like, I'm not good at connecting. I don't know how to connect.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. And so that's
now,
your thought as you're
yeah,
walking into the room. Talk about your
yeah.
creating the reality that was happening for you, right?
Well, and that's why I'd love to unpack for who's listening to us today because it's powerful. I mean, I know now, but I also remember that was my story. I would
Yeah.
tell people, oh, I feel really nervous. I don't really feel comfortable. I don't want to go to this event
Yeah.
because I'm not good at networking. I'm not good at connecting. So because I had this thought, that impacted my feeling of anxiety,
Yeah.
of fear, of feeling uncomfortable. but I generated all this from my belief. And so, and let's unpack this, Carol, a little bit more about
Yeah.
like the messages that are being sent through our body and what we are generating as we are to walk into the room, connect with people, networking with people, and there to, it's like we do the thing because we know right? It's that it should do it.
Yeah.
And yet we find we're not getting results. And we want to help you to actually get the result that you want to create. And so you can show
Right.
up confidently, that you can see the power and experience the power of the network. Because I have now learned for the last little while. And Carol, I mean, this is down to you. I would also always say that Carol is a master connector. I mean,
Thank
I
you.
always admire Carol. Like she's got this beautiful gift of really connecting with people. And up until, recently, I did not have that belief in
You
myself.
have it. You have it
I
for
mean, it's funny. You
sure.
say I haven't, and I'm like, and I would
Yeah.
truly, honestly, until recently, not believe that. And I have shifted my beliefs. I've shifted
Mm.
the
That's
conversation I'm
it.
having with
Yeah.
myself, right? And now I'm creating different results from that.
Results.
So let's help
It's
the listener do that, right, Carol?
Yeah, you touch on such important things, and it really is. We walk into these events focused on what we're going to say or what we're going to do rather than setting the foundation. But like you said, it goes even deeper than that. This is where we start with what are the thoughts that we're having? Because the thought leads to the emotion, right? And then it's all a cascade into our bodies because our subconscious is housed in our bodies. It's our neurochemicals. So, you're walking in with this belief, pre-setting what the energy that you're bringing into the event is without even saying a word. Maybe you don't say anything. Maybe you go walk up to a group and everybody walks away and you're like, what just happened, right? Why am I repelling people? Because you're bringing in an energy of, oh, I don't believe in myself. I don't believe I'm capable of networking and connecting. So then you get frustrated and you're like, oh, this doesn't work, which was the example that Joe gave us last week, And so when you've got that as your thought, then yeah, you're right. You're creating that reality and it's coming from that subconscious. And it won't lead you to the conversations and the depth and the relationships that you actually are meant to have, that you deserve to have, so that you don't have to be alone. You don't have to lone wolf it. You can actually collaborate with people and not have that little voice in your head that might be holding you back by telling you these negative things like, you're an imposter and who do you think you are and why would anybody want to work with you and you're not really meant to be here. This is not your room. You're not good enough, right?
Mhm.
And all of those subconscious beliefs that can end up firing in our heads without us even realizing it because our subconscious is working to keep us safe, right? But the cool thing about the process that Alex, Leanne, and I teach is there are solid solutions to this to not only address those subconscious beliefs, but to get deep to them. And we wanted to talk to you about the neuroscience of this today so that you're not operating from past experiences. You're not operating from that voice that's saying, hey, because this happened to you in the past, you're not capable. This is going to happen again. This experience is going to repeat. You've been abandoned and rejected. That's your life. That's your story. And you have to live in that box. And all the things where we're living other people's thoughts, emotions, plans, decisions for our lives rather than our own, rather than going deep into our true worthiness, our true ability. And there, again, is this an amazing solution that we use and that we teach in the neuroscience process. And Alex, I know you have another story about how this has affected you in the past in terms of, I think you were talking to a colleague and kind of sharing because not only do we have the mental blocks, but we want to be authentic, right? And we want to address the root of the problem. We want to get back to what the power is that we have. And we have power, and this is the exciting part, right?
Well, a lot of it, even as you're talking, Carol, like there's certain things that came to me. I think one thing what's super important is being able to identify what is coming up for you. So
Mhm.
the challenge is actually to go to a networking event or to go
Yeah,
into the situation, right? I mean, this works in any situation, but to go into the situation
yeah.
where you're noticing that you maybe feel uncomfortable, maybe feel a little bit anxious,
Mhm.
palms are sweaty, right? Like you have some sort of body reaction to something, right?
Yeah.
That's information to let you know that this is somewhere that you don't feel safe and insecure. So that's the first thing is you actually, I know it's probably as crazy as it sounds, I'm saying, no, you actually want to put yourself in that situation. Here's why. The first
Mhm.
step in all of this process is to be able to identify what the thoughts are. See, I
Yeah.
can look back now and see, like, I believe, like I've said, like Carol's an amazing
Oh.
connector, and I've always admired her for connection. I used to say this about my husband, right? My husband is such a good networker. So I'd always send him to all the networking events because every single time he went to a networking event, we would get a new web client. And my experience of myself was I wouldn't have the same quote unquote success as him. Or seeing other, clients walk in and they start to compare themselves to other people.
Yeah.
Kind of almost like how I guess you could say I was comparing myself to Carol, been
Yeah.
like, oh, she's such a great connector. I would like finding myself like, man, I wish I could connect like Carol, or I wish I could network like my husband. And it's so fascinating because unless we consciously choose to
Yeah.
become aware of what's going on, it happens as a subconscious, right? 95 to 90, was it 97%? I don't
Yeah.
know. Research is
It's
always
like,
changing, right?
it's
Like
crazy, right?
thoughts are automatic in our subconscious. We're not even realizing that, right? So
Yeah.
let's say
It's,
prior to listening to this podcast episode, you went to a networking event, you were connecting with people, and you came out of there without the results, but you're not really sure why. And you now just maybe have this belief that networking doesn't
mm,
work. I'm not good at connecting. People don't see me. My communication doesn't land,
yeah.
whatever it is, right? Now, the next time you go to a networking event,
Hmm.
you are consciously aware of, okay, what am I saying to myself when I walk in?
Yeah.
What am I saying to myself if I do walk towards a crowd and everybody walks away? And have a notepad or use your phone, speech to text, to
Yeah.
track what these thoughts and beliefs are, because
Yeah.
that's where the gold is when you can really get connected with the subconscious.
Yeah.
And so a client of mine earlier this week was saying to me, sharing what was coming up for her, and she's like, well, I just reframed it. It's like reframing is okay. I mean, it's great to have the skill to reframe because like we don't most people don't even have the skill to reframe it.
Right.
However, reframing is not going to neutralize, erase it, and replace it. It's just
No.
going to help you in those moments to intercept, right?
Yeah.
Interrupt. Sorry, that was what I was looking for. Interrupt the thought pattern.
Yeah.
However, it's not going anywhere.
It leaves you short because the
Yeah.
thought pattern is still there, still operating. And the whole point of the subconscious is that we are unaware of what's going on there. Everything is automated, and the job of the brain is to protect that automated system because it serves us, but it protects whatever is also negative or limiting to us. So, when we reframe or we just try to shift out of something without going through the simple, clear, but full process, then what happens is it's still back there operating. And we're like, oh, we're spinning our wheels. We're on the stop start cycle. We're running into it again. We're like hitting the glass ceiling. I was like, what is going on? Why? I've reframed. Why is this still keeping me blocked? Right. And so this is what Alex Leanne is leaning into, with the client she was speaking with. It's not just a matter of reframing. You want to be able to neutralize and erase. And there is a way to do that with the neuroplasticity we have. And that's the exciting part because that's what will carry you forward to be able to create, manifest, if you will, the reality that you desire and not have to be constantly on the wheel. Now, the work is long term, it's ongoing. Alex and I still use this process every day of our lives because it is so valuable, but that's because we're continuing to grow and we're continuing to go to deeper levels. So it is a part of it. But in terms of you're connecting and collaborating and networking with people, being able to walk into the solutions that we provide you will get you results. Absolutely. You will be able to understand how to actually synaptic prune, if you're using science, split away that old limiting neural network and neutralize and erase it and be able to put the connection reality in place, just like Alex Leanne has done. And I thank you so much for, saying I'm a connector, but my brain works like everybody else's. Those imposter syndromes and doubts hit my brain too, because they're deep in my neural networks. And I get to go have that awareness piece that you're sharing with us. And, so it doesn't just get shifted back down. And I'm not just reframing, as you say.
I'm curious, Carol, for you, what's coming to you now is, do you have something like I'm a super connector or something like that in your brain
I
prime? Because
do.
because honestly, right? And this is
Yeah.
what's so powerful. Like, I knew what she was brain priming because I see how Carol shows up. I
Yeah.
see the connection she creates. I see the relationships she builds, right? And so just because kind of going back a little bit to the imposter syndrome and the limiting beliefs and just, I call it the comparinitis, right? Because
Yeah.
high performers, let's be real, right? That's
Yeah.
we've got the negativity
What's
bias. We're a
everybody
high
else
performer,
doing?
and it's
Yeah.
just, I mean,
Yeah.
the reality is that's what happens, right?
Yeah.
And so it happens. So you walk into a room and you see people that are massive connectors and they're so great at what they're doing, right? Your brain can go into judgment and criticism of
Yeah.
yourself, right? Maybe
Yeah.
experiences of jealousy, man, I wish they were like that.
Self-doubt. Yeah.
But here's where some of the power is the fact that you can look at, what do I admire in that person?
Yeah.
And you can take note, right?
Yeah.
If you want to walk into a room and show up like that, in like the person that you see, you have the power, right? And
Mm,
this goes into the identity work. I mean, this is another part of the work that Carol and I do with our clients, is
yeah.
looking at the identity piece, because you're going to show up and present yourself based on how you perceive yourself and how you believe in yourself, right?
Yeah.
Again, subconscious beliefs, but it also ties into your identity.
Yes.
So I know, I can see based on how Carol shows up that she's a super connector. And look, she was priming that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I'm sure Carol can say that she didn't feel like she was always that, but Carol is
Yeah.
grounded in her brain prime daily. And so she's
Yeah.
grounded in, I'm a super connector. If I'm a
Thanks.
super connector, what does that look like? What does
Yeah.
that mean? And to
What
have
is
different,
brain priming, right? What is this?
yeah,
What's the solution, right? Yeah, I love it. I love what you're saying. So, brain priming is a part of our neuroscience process. And it's actually one of the things that brain prime is, I'm a super attractor. And it's so funny how you say you can see that. We know from working with each other how different things that we're priming. We can see it because we can see it in the way that we show up, right? And what we're
and
grounded in
results. You're
and
like, here's the thing,
results.
your results will always
Yes.
dictate what your thoughts and beliefs are, because we make our decisions based on our identity, based on our beliefs. So that's what's so powerful. We can always tell
Yeah.
somebody's results because, or sorry, hold on.
We can
Based on
always
people's
tell from
results.
results.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know how
Right.
they're operating, you know where they're at. And so kind of just going back to, like, if you do walk in the room and you notice that. I mean,
Yeah.
I was very guilty of that up until, you know, like in the last few years.
But I
And
see real differences in you from when I first knew you to where you're operating now. So I also see the results of that brain prime and of that whole process that we teach that isn't just the brain prime. This is a part of it, but we want to share this part because it's so powerful in getting you, on the path to change. Again, I want to emphasize, just like you do, Alex, I know that it's it's a simple, really four-step process. There are sub points under it, and we go deep. right? It's not just surface level. So we can share all of that here with you, but you need to know that the deeper that you go in this work with the identity work, the more powerful and fast, accelerated your results are going to be. And that is what gets you and I excited because now we know how to follow the process. We take our clients through the process and we start to have those results. And so, Alex, I mean, your connections, I would even say over the last 2 years have been like, wow, wow. The speaking events you do, the clients you work with, the colleagues that you have, the rooms that you sit in with people that are operating at such an incredibly high level like you are a result of the brain priming that you do. And I get to witness that all the time.
And it's so funny because literally, as Carol is saying this to me, I'm sitting here being like, what are you talking about, Carol? Like, what about some of the rooms that you're in and the people that you're speaking to and the connections and collaborations and partnerships that you're creating, right? And so this is what's funny. I mean, that's mirror work, and that I think that's a whole other
A whole
topic for
other,
a
yeah,
podcast, right?
quantum work.
But this is this is what's so powerful. So leading back into the collaboration, because we know the power of collaboration. I mean,
Yeah,
Joe really landed it so well in his interview last
yeah,
week.
he
Is that
did.
is what's coming to me really for as you're listening to this is leaning into the curiosity. If you're
Yeah.
noticing, right, that you do have resistance around networking, or maybe your networking is amazing and you just want to take it to the next level.
Hmm.
There's always a next level. There really truly is. There's
That's
always a next,
right.
right?
Yeah.
So it's just leading with that curiosity. And the next time you go to an event, because you might have said to yourself, I'm not going to do this anymore. I invite you to take yourself on and go to that next event, but walk into that room with a different mission. Walk in that room with a mission to try to understand what
Yeah.
is going on in my subconscious
That
around
intention. Yeah.
relationship building,
Yeah.
around connection, around building partnership. Go in there with, like the CSI investigator
Yeah.
and be curious.
Yeah.
Take yourself on, put yourself in those situations that make you feel uncomfortable because it's
Mhm.
in those moments that you get connected with the subconscious.
Yeah.
And
And
that's where the
the
goal is in
gold
those
is.
moments that you can really tap into what's coming up for you in those moments.
And I think, the curiosity piece, curiosity is an antidote to judgment. When you immediately get curious, you're not in judgment of people. You're like, oh, what's going on? And so it removes that comparisonitis. And I think the solution that we're excited about bringing to you is that you can actually brain prime in, and we're going to do a whole episode on the power of brain priming. You can brain prime in, set the intention for what reality you're going to create walking into the room while you're able to neutralize and erase the fear, the doubt, the comparisonitis, the imposter syndrome, all of those things that will still be operating if you're merely doing a part of the process. And the brain priming specifically is where you're doing your own affirmations. And some of the most powerful research on this that I'm aware of is language learning research, about the depth of what happens when we're using our own voices to put things into I am statements and teach our brains, train our brains. We're building a muscle. And then it's a process where when we're doing this, we are beginning to, we've already done some steps, like I mentioned, and like Alex has mentioned, but we're beginning to really neutralize and erase those old beliefs and put the power of the new beliefs of the reality that we want. We want to collaborate. We want to connect. We want to build relationship like Joe talked about. The depth of those relationships is so incredible. And the steps that we can take to do that by training our brains, training our muscle in our thought and emotion, our beliefs to be able to enter those rooms and know that there's amazing things ahead for us. We don't have to be alone. We do not have to carry the weight of the world on our shoulder. There are people that actually want to work with us. They want to work with us as clients. They want to work with us as collaborators, strategic alliances, joint ventures, partnerships, and just like you and I have, Alex. And the power of that, I know that this podcast would not in any way be the same if I had tried to go out and do a podcast on my own. But it was Alex's invitation for us to do this podcast together that has been part of the power of you being able to hear two perspectives on the neurocoaching that we do with Alex's strengths and her powerhouse coaching and leadership training, and the things that I bring to the table with the insight I have, with the wealth, building that I have. And this is a big part of the wealth activation that I offer you for free in the show notes. It is this last step of the process that we're talking about today in our four-step process. I call the process the success matrix, and it's with four R's. And this wealth activation is taking you into activating your wealth, just like you can activate your connections, your collaborations, your clients through brain priming, doing your own affirmations. And so we're excited to go into this more in another episode so you really understand what this is at an even deeper level.
So because we are going to come back with a more deeper exercise on the brain priming process, my invitation is go to your next event or put yourself in that uncomfortable situation, whatever it may be. Lead with curiosity, bring a way to track or record exactly what's going on in your head subconsciously. What are you saying to yourself before the situation while you're in the event? And then come back and listen. And we're going to walk you through a little bit more step by step to support you in really understanding, like, okay, so this is what I do now that I have this information. Because it starts with that. It really is the information and being excited, right? It's the CSI investigator. You're on a mission to figure out what is going on between my two ears that's holding me back, that's stopping me from really being unleashed and unstoppable, from creating those relationships, from being seen from the people I want to impact, and being able to lean into the power of connection and collaboration and partnership to help you. I mean, it really does help you 10x your results because, as you said earlier, Carol, it's not about you going solo now, right? It's that you now have a team, like a team. I mean, people are in conversation with people all day long. I hope, right? Unless you're quite isolated. But I know you, if you're listening, you are a very connected person, even though you might not even realize it. But the power of connection to really 10x your impact on what you're up to creating.
You've got referrals, you've got affiliations. I mean, there's so many different ways that we can reach out and support each other with real depth and service. And when you bring value to the marketplace, guess what happens? It's rewarded financially. And, Alex, talking about the web development agency and what you and Andrew are doing there, and the way that brain priming assists you because you're able to make connections there. So this is the exciting thing for me. Like I can be very independent minded. This I confess, I'm an Aquarius and we like to, be independent. Yeah. And learning though that I didn't have to carry the weight of the world on the shoulder has been a real enhancement in leadership. And that is something that I have received from you, Alex, because when we're leaders, we are serving many people and we are connected. We care. We care about what your process is. We care about you being able to live the fully deserved and desired life that's meant for you, and use the tools that we have available to us, right? And that's the exciting part.
I
So,
mean, I think that's one thing that shifted. Like once I joined the agency, because the agency was built
mhm.
on relationship.
Yeah,
right? I mean, that's how the agency has been
Mhm.
like built itself to the success that it has created. It's been based on relationship, and that's what I always admired in Andrew, is his ability to create those relationships and partnerships. And so, though it has taken me a while to sort of have that realization myself and the power of that, now that I've realized that I'm tapping into that, I mean, I
Mhm.
mean, the floodgates are open, right? Because
Yeah.
wow, the brain is now wired and primed to look at all these possibilities. And it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be just like a, transaction. It's literally just being in conversation with people
Mhm. Yeah.
opens up opportunities and doors, because people are talking to people and they're like, oh yeah, actually I'm going to introduce you to this person. And there's the power of, I mean, I'm kind of looking at our little graphic here, right?
Mhm.
Which is actually the neurons.
Yeah.
However, it's like you got one dot that's connected to that dot that's connected to that dot, right? And that's the power. And it's
Yeah.
tapping into that, but it's really gonna come down to like, what is your relationship
Mhm.
with networking, connection, collaboration, partnership, right?
Yeah.
Taking away from this maybe competitive perspective to really that collaboration, the power of
Yeah.
working together and working with others in team, and then being able to operate from that and making, right, same thing, right, making your decisions, taking
Yeah.
action to create the result on that. So the even even I mean, I don't want to leave the listener too much, but what else is coming to me here is just going to like how you're defining the networking. How do you
Yeah.
find relationship? How do you
Mhm.
define connection? Because
Yeah.
that's also going to give you a lot of information, as well as
Yeah.
of how you're operating through your identity and all that with your thoughts and beliefs. So I guess kind of tie that
Mhm.
into, as you're being curious around the subconscious, be curious around, what is your story? Like, how do you define networking? How do you see the power of networking? Is it transactional, which,
Yeah.
and don't believe that's what you want it to be. And if it is transactional, great, because now you have information, you can change that belief
Yeah.
around being
Yeah.
transactional to
Is it
really,
shallow and surface level?
yeah.
Yeah.
Or is it deep about connection and relationship and really caring about people and
Yeah.
being enrolled? I mean, one of the senior leadership distinctions is about enrolling other people into your mission and vision.
Yeah.
So are you also enrolled in other people's mission and visions, and
Mhm.
you want to help them out,
Yeah.
just in the exchange of people also being enrolled in your mission and vision? Because now it becomes like this collaborative way of creating that greater impact, because you're
Mhm.
working together as a team to create the greater impact for the greater good of everybody that you're in connection with. So that's
It's a
just kind of
great.
what's coming to me, Carol, especially as
Mhm.
I was looking at our little graphic here,
Yeah.
and changing that story around what's
Yeah.
possible when you do communicate, sorry, not
Mhm.
communicate, network and build partnerships and put yourselves in situations
Yeah.
that create those opportunities as well.
And we do invite you to go back as a precursor to this and listen to that episode with Joe Apfelbaum. Talk about a networking expert. You know, I get to watch him in action, and it's impressive because this is something that he has wired in and operated by for a long time, and he goes in depth. So we wanted to put this on top of it so you could understand the neuroscience process that can assist you with the things that he was talking about and go even deeper. So we are so excited to talk to you next week, to bring you even more in-depth information. It may be the week after because we've got even more guest experts that are going to blow your mind on the way. And you know, we're gonna talk to you about a little bit more about the brain priming. There's a whole lot that we could go into. This is why, you know, I offer a year-long course because of the depth that goes alongside this, but it'll be like a little mini workshop. So that part's exciting. And be sure and grab that wealth activation. And if you need any web development, definitely connect with Alex and Andrew. What they do is phenomenal. So, okay, we'll see you next week. Ciao.
Ah.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Unleashed Unstoppable podcast with your hosts, Alexander Carter and Carol Register.
If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others. Post about it on social media or leave a rating and review and subscribe.
That's all for this episode, Wildly Ambitious Leaders. See you next week.